Hi, Misha here, and really quite recently I've already did a revisit video on the Imperial Star Destroyer, the ISD, be it ISD 1 or 2. But this is something I was looking forward to ever since it was announced last year in the new, well, it's about a year old now, Hot Wheels Select series of die-cast vehicles and what have you. This is our first, I guess you would say, capital ship. Before that, they've done fighters and a couple of shuttles and medium size, like the Millennium Falcon and the Razor Crest. But now we have our first big ship. So in this video, I thought we'd take a quick look at it, do a couple of comparisons, and then I would share with you the other larger ships I would like to see. Because, you know, fighters are neat and all, but I think when it comes to this size, around 5 inches, the bigger ships really turn out better. Sometimes the fighters get blown up so much they look a little cartoony or whatnot. But the big ships, because they're so blocky, they really do well in die-cast. But no, when the Imperial Star Destroyer was announced, I think this was issue 10. I did a video back in October, I believe it was, of 2022, looking at the first 8 issues. And I picked up all of those. But with the next 4, these are getting, at least so far, released in batches of 4, I decided to be a lot choosier because number 9 was so-called Jango Fett's ship, and I asked some people in the comments, and they were helpful and said that basically it's the same as Boba Fett's Slave 1, just a different paint. Well, I don't need that, so this was 10. I definitely wanted it. 11 was the Snowspeeder. I have so many snow speeders. I'm not saying I won't get it, but I'll probably wait till it goes on one of those crazy Amazon deals for like $8 delivered. And 12 I will get, but I don't have it yet. It's the Republic gunship. I have several gunships, but I just kind of like them. But I'm not in a hurry. They have announced 13 through 16. I believe they're doing a couple of vessels from the sequel trilogy, like Resistance X-Wing and First Order TIE Fighter. And then they're doing the AT-AT, which is, I believe, the first of the ground vehicles. I don't know what I'll do on that because I already have the XL AT-AT from the Titanium series, and I've got several others, so I don't know that I'll really pick it up. It depends how nice it is. But once they announced the Snowspeeder, they kind of had to do it. But as you see, this is the first big ship. Now, of course, not to go into the weeds about the Imperial Star Destroyer, but it's about 1,600 meters long. Had a officer count of about 9,200, a crew count, just, you know, enlisted and what have you, of about 27,800, and it could carry nearly 10,000 stormtroopers. And standard complement for other craft on board, it had 72 TIE Fighter types, 48 were the standard TIE Fighter, 12, so one full squad, were typically the TIE Interceptor once it was available, and 12 were the TIE Bomber. On top of that, it carried roughly 15 troop transports and 8 Lambda-class shuttles. We do have a Lambda in the Select series, which is pretty neat with moving wings. And on top of that, it carried 30 AT-ST Scout Walkers, 20 AT-AT Heavier Troop Walkers, and 1 Garrison Base. And it was well armed, had 60 turbo lasers, 60 ion cannons, and then it had 6 heavy turbo lasers, which are actually present on this model, 3 on each side, and then it had 2 heavy ion cannon emplacements. On top of that, it had various other emplacements, and the difference between the ISD-1 and the ISD-2, the 2 had 2 quad laser mounts added, 1 on each end, as kind of a point defense system. And they added a communications tower next to the bridge, and they kind of raised the gun emplacements higher. In the universe, you could say this was done for a better firing arc. In reality, the difference is simple. You had one model for the original A New Hope, And by the time of the Return of the Jedi, you had an updated, improved model, so this is the ISD-2. It's said that in universe, the first Imperial Star Destroyers were being tested as early as 18 BBY, and the last ISD-1 was Vader's own Devastator built in 5 BBY. And so after that, the Imperial 2 would come out with better point defense, again, better comms, what have you. In the back, we have a total of 7 engines, 3 main, 4 auxiliary plus thrusters. And this had a Class 2 hyperdrive with a Class 8 backup. And yeah, it's the Imperial Star Destroyer. You know it, you love it, it's iconic. So yeah, this is the Select series. And pretty nice. Some things I like, some things are maybe a little different, but it is heavy, mostly metal, except this tip, which is plastic or polymer. I think they did it maybe for safety and for weight purposes. Remember, they felt it would be too nose heavy. And to be fair, on the stand, it is a little nose heavy. So if this was more metal, the only bad thing is you do have a seam here, and I could see this getting knocked out of alignment. Not surprisingly, the bridge itself, the tower, is polymer. That's understood with all the detailing. It's always easier to get detailing in plastic versus metal, at least die-cast metal. And the engines are interesting. They kind of have this flowery petal spread. I'm not sure if that was done to kind of make them seem more active. I think it works though. On the other side, we have one negative and one positive. We have very exposed rivet ports. That's common for the Hot Wheels. It was also in the titanium. Normally it's not such a big deal, but these are quite apparent. Plugs would have been nice at this size. On the flip side, we have a very good bay here. Main shuttle bay, cargo bay. And then there's even the secondary bay in front of it, although the rivet does kind of occlude it a bit. And the stands with these are quite nice. So for roughly 20 bucks, it's a nice little model. And it really makes me want more in this series. I brought out a couple for comparing purposes. Here is the old, well, this is from the Titanium Black series, but it's the same as the old Titanium series. This is all metal out to the tip, but it still does have a polymer bridge section, and it has a little bit of movement to it. That's because the action feature of this was a little retractable Tantive 4. Neat concept. Back when these molds were made by Micro Machines in the very late 90s, they were trying to give them features. The negative to it is it means the bay is actually a weird shape. It's longer than it should be. Notice this has ports too for the rivets. Now this center place where the stand always plugs in, that's actually the power core. And notice the kind of plain engines in the back. And the problem with this is the center engine moves because that's your action feature. I never did like that. This kind of ruins the back of the Star Destroyer in my opinion, and that's such an iconic view of a Star Destroyer. I don't know. Luckily, later on in the Titanium series, they got away from action features aside from like folding wings, which, good call. So this one is all metal, but a little smaller and a little out of proportion. That's an older mold. A slightly newer one, we have Hot Wheels' original Star Destroyer. Well, actually, this is the second version. The first one had a few less details in the back. So this is a little larger. Has a more authentic rear view. And a more correctly sized bay. But notice it's very shallow. It's almost like it's closed. And this too, like the Select, has a plastic front end. You notice this one's got a little wiggle to it. Not a big deal. Again, these are very inexpensive little things, under 10 bucks. So, but this does have the thing, and it is a little bit bigger than our others. So you can probably hear Hobo meowing. She thinks she needs to help. Let me arrange him here a bit. Just to show size off. How's everyone doing today? So the smallest is the titanium, i.e. the Black Series. And then the Hot Wheels, a little bit longer, better proportioned. And then our newest Hot Wheels, it's a little bit longer, but at this size, the girth really kind of shows, and that's a good thing. And this goes to show you, just blowing it up even 25-30% really lets more details come through. This one has the trench on the side, but it's kind of exaggerated. This one, it's kind of lost in the details, which is probably correct for this size. This one, though, is big enough. We have a nice pronounced trench, and I like that. Same goes for that shuttle bay. At this size, you're able to really give it detailing. Here, that's probably the best they can do. And again, this one's kind of ruined because of the action feature. And same with the rear section. Even though this one doesn't have the action rear, boy, phrasing, huh? You see, these engines are relatively plain. So my theory is when they blew them up for this size, they just looked kind of blocky, plain, and toy-like. So they decided to give them a little bit of artistic flair to make them more interesting. Plus, you know, you could always say, well, when we see it in the show, they're very active, you know, glow and whatnot. So any detailing like that could have been lost in the glare. I also like that the heavy emplacements are clear and visible up here. And the nose, which typically on a ISD2 would have a shield generator and one of the quad lasers, is slightly flattened, not to a perfect point, which is correct. This one's very blunted, but again, it's metal, so it's going to be. So in all, I think it is the best one. And I think the titanium is still the worst. As much as I like the titanium series, I just never was impressed with their Star Destroyer. I actually like the version 2 from the original Hot Wheels. But I'm digging this Select series, because this is kind of Eagle Moss size, and it really gives you areas for details. So like I said, mostly we're getting smaller, medium vehicles. This is our first large. I hope it sells really well and they do more. For one thing, I would think this is a simpler casting to make. And most large ships would be too. So I hope they continue it. And so to end this video, I was thinking about what I'd really like to see. I thought we'd go through each movie. Of course, this is from, well, technically this looks more like an ISD2, so it's from Empire Strikes Back. But anyway, A New Hope. You have a Star Destroyer. This is fine. The differences between 1 and 2 aren't enough to do two different models. Obviously, the Tantive 4 is another good candidate. It's on that medium size, kind of a little bit larger than the Millennium Falcon and all that, but still, I think a Tantive 4 is such an iconic ship, appearing in multiple films and media. Yeah, let's do that, and it would be pretty detailed. We've already got the Millennium Falcon. We could do a Death Star if we wanted, but it's a ball. Just get a tennis ball and paint it. But that's really it. We don't have a lot of big ships in that. Moving on to Empire Strikes Back, we have some good fodder. The Rebel Troop Transport, I've always had a soft spot for it, and I think it would be perfect in this size. Again, it's more of a medium than a truly large, but either way. Another one that I would love to see that wasn't even in the standard Hot Wheels size is the Nebulon B frigate. the Rebel frigate, also the Empire used them. Please, I think that would be perfect in this size. In a smaller scale, it's a little too fragile with the rear engine section on that strut and with the antennae and whatnot, but in this size, it would have enough mass and bulk that it would be great. So I really want that. And of course, the Executor, the Super Star Destroyer. And really what they should do for the Executor is make it a special edition. Someone needs to make like a 10-inch, 12-inch Executor. It would never quite scale with this because it's so massive, but at least get the point across that it was huge. So please do the Executor, but don't just do it in a 4 or 5-inch, even 6-inch. Let's go big with the Executor. Let's make it something unique. Let's make it a gift set or something, guys. That'd be great. Return of the Jedi gives us more fun things. You know me, I like my Mon Cal cruisers, and we've got at least 2 major models with another couple of minor variations. Now, Hot Wheels' first attempt at a Mon Cal didn't go so great, at least according to a lot of people. I think the titanium Mon Cal is a lot better. They need to give it another go, because I think the Mon Cal would really come to life in this size. And because of the large bay, shuttle bay area or cargo bay, they could do kind of like this and do a really nice, deep, detailed. And it also has very prominent engines. So I think it could get a really nice similar treatment to our Star Destroyer here. And I'm trying to think, what, is any other large ships? So like I said, we got the Nebulon B. Yeah, I guess that's really the big ones from that film. You could always do Jabba's sail barge if you wanted to. But moving to episode 1, we have more fodder. I think the Republic Consular Cruiser would be neat. It's kind of an early version of the Tantive 4. But the one that comes to mind immediately is the Trade Federation, the donut ship, the battleship. That would be perfect in this size. Heavy, massive, lots of detailing, but also relatively simple to make. So those are the 2 that kind of come from episode 1. Of course, episode 2, Attack of the Clones, you've got plenty. Several Trade Federation, CSI things you could do. But, of course, you know the one I want, the Acclimator. I don't know why everyone from De Agostini to the Titanium series to the Black series and the Hot Wheels keeps neglecting the Acclimator. It's such a iconic part of that film and beyond. Please, do that one, and it would look good in this size. It really would. It's a little thicker, a little chunkier. It could be nice and heavy. And then, of course, by Revenge of the Sith, you have lots of options. The Providence class, Dreadnought, the Visible Hand comes to mind immediately. You could even do the Malevolence if you want to get into Clone Wars, which you should, because they're actually quite enjoyable. And as someone commented in my previous video on the Select series, the Venator. We've got to have a Venator. Extra bonus points if it has the large moving bay doors. I'm not sure they'll do it but they could. And that would just be great if it's a Venator, excellent if it has the bay doors. I think that really is a no-brainer there. I don't expect them to do a lot of background ships. The problem is the larger you get in scale, the fewer they'll do. Like I said, they're up to issue 16 within the first year. If you look at the smaller scales here, Titanium and Hot Wheels, they are able to do more. So they're going to have to be a little bit pickier on the large, but that's okay. And then if you wanted, you can do some sequel trilogy. I don't hate the designs from it. I think the first one they'd probably do would be the First Order Star Destroyer, the Resurgence class. I'd pick that up. Not really any iconic Rebel ships or Resistance ships, whatever you want to call them. I guess you could do the MC-85, the Mon Cal cruiser from Last Jedi. You could do the Supremacy. For some reason, no one really seems to do the Supremacy. But by the point that Last Jedi and certainly Rise of Skywalker came out, die-cast ships were kind of falling off, which is a shame. But yeah, there's not a lot of unique ones in the sequels, unfortunately, but you could do a couple. And since they're doing a Resistance X-Wing and a First Order TIE Fighter, I figure they will probably need to do that. But they also have shown that they'll go into series, so we've seen the Razor Crest, like I said, from Mandalorian. And with Andor coming out, there's several things they could do. Be kind of neat to see a large-scale arrestor cruiser. Interesting at any rate. But I'm not sure they'll do that. It's a bit of a background shift. But we'll see, right? And, of course, Bad Batch Season 2 just came out. I'd love to see the Marauder, the shuttle, the assault shuttle. That would look good. It's a medium size, not a large, but it would go really well with the Lambda we've already got. And, yeah, things are progressing on. There are plenty of options. I'm just glad there are die-cast ships coming out again. I've already lost Eagle Moss, and for a minute it looked like Hot Wheels was done. Even if they're only going to release, you know, 1 or 2 a month, I'm done with that. Just keep the price reasonable. And I'll still keep picking them up. But yeah, I was really excited about this one, so I wanted to make a video about it, and I am quite happy. I'd give it a 4 out of 5 stars very easily, especially for the price. And yeah, these I'd give this one a basically the same for its size and cost, maybe 3.5 out of 5. This one, it's never set with me well. I'm gonna give it a 2.5. It's fine. It was adequate for years, but that rear with the peg really bugs me. Now the Executor and the titanium, I'm going to give like 2 stars, maybe even 1.5. They really bungled that one. Luckily, Hot Wheels did quite a nice Super Star Destroyer in the standard line. But yeah, let me know what you think, and I better get back to work now. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.